Let's talk about some more advanced examples using the query function and see what the syntax looks like there. So we're going to look at OR, dealing with nulls, and some more aggregations and some more queries of queries. So here I have a very basic little data table with some data for A, B, C, and D with some values, and what I'd like to do is use the query to pull back just A's or B's. So we're going to chuck away the C's and the D's, and I could use a filter function or some lookup functions to do this, but what I'd like to do is show you how we can do this kind of work with a query function. So we'll start with just the very basic query, and we'll just highlight our data set, and then we'll just do a select star because that pulls back everything, and I like to sometimes just start with that to build the queries up very slowly. And you can see that just returns all of our original data. Now, to filter data with the query, we use the word where. That's the SQL language we use for the filter, and we're going to say where column A equals little a, or column A equals little b. And I use those the single quotations rather there to go around the values that I'm testing for. So when column A equals little a or column A equals lowercase b, then return the data, and there it gives me now just the data for A and B. So let's have a look at an AND condition and also a null condition. So this is our new data set now, and you can see it has some gaps in it, and it has some bogus data that's crept in there. So this is bad data, and then we also have some missing apartment types. And what I'd like to do is pull out just a list of the valid property and sale price items from here, so I can do some further analysis on that and do some work, and I'm not messing around getting mistakes caused by these empty rows. So we're going to say query again, and we'll start with A3 to B. So we'll just include the whole 2 columns this time, and that way if any data gets added, it'll be included. If any new stuff arrives down here, it just gets automatically dealt with by the query. And again, we'll say select star, that just returns me both the rows. And this time we'll say, well, I'll just finish that off first. We'll just bring that back. That gives me everything. Then we'll add our where clause in, which is our filter, and we'll say A is not null. And it's like writing it out in English. It really is. We're saying select everything where column A is not null, which means it's not these blank ones. So let's hit enter and see what happens. And you can see it removes these ones, and it removes these two here. These two values have dropped away now, and it also drops away anything down here. So we add to that now. We say where A is not null and B is not null. So we want column B to not be null as well, and that should get rid of now these two header things and these two blanks here. So let's see if that works. And there we go. It does in fact get rid of those two as well. And let's do one last thing and just quickly review that the order by clause, and we'll just put that in here. And so we'll just sort by the price from high to low, order by B, D, E, S, C. And now that means that we're just sorting by the most expensive to the least expensive. So that was using and the not null is not null. So that's the second example I want to show you. Now the third example of the slightly more advanced syntax is this one here, and we have some space shuttle liftoff dates. And what I'd like to do is return a list of all of the dates, all the space shuttle launches after the year 2000, just so I can use those ones. So let's do that. So let's just put a header in there, and I'm going to say query A3 to C. So that's all of our data. And again, we'll just start with the select star just to set the table up. Brings back everything. Now this is an interesting example because now we're working with dates, and I want to do some filtering on dates, and there's a special way that we have to deal with dates in the query function. You can't just sort of say greater than and just put a date in. You have to use a special keyword for the date. So we come back into our language here, into the query function section. We're going to have a filter, the where, and we're going to say where B, so that's column B, which was this one which had the dates in. is greater than. When you put a date into your query function, you need to use the keyword date. So I have to actually explicitly say this is a date coming up, and then the format of the date has to be year dash month dash day. And let me show you that. And we wrap it in single quotations. So 2000 we want. I want the first month, which is January, and I have to specify that with 2 digits. So I have to put the 0 in front, and then I want the very first day of January as well. So I put another 01 as the first of the month of January, and then close that with a single quotation, and then I'm going to hit enter, and that will give me then all of the results. So all of the shuttle launches after the year 2000. So I have to use that word date, if you remember, and then also the date. It's very important the date goes into that format of year, month, day. It has to take that format, and then the query can properly pass that and check for anything in column B, any of the dates in column B greater than that. So let's now take a look at the counting the shuttle missions for each shuttle after the year 2000. So we'll aggregate this for the year 2000. So number of missions, and I'll start again with this same query. So we'll just copy that quickly to save some time, put that in here again. And this time what I'd like to do is still have the same filter, but I'm going to change my where here. I'm going to start with C, and then we're going to count C. And as I said, it doesn't really matter. I said in my other video, on the first query function video, it doesn't really matter which column I count, provided it doesn't have any nulls in, because it'll just count everything in that column, and that's all I want to do. Is I want to count the number of times, the number of rows each of these shuttles turns up on. And then I specify my where clause, which is my filter. So I filter the data first before I do the actual grouping, and then I say group by column C, and let's just see what that looks like. And there it's sorted them now into how many, it's returned just the shuttles and how many missions they flew in the post 2000 period. So let's just sort as well. So we'll go order by count C, DESC. And then finally, let's just also label count C as, and then the way we do that is to use the word label, and then we put we type count C, which is what the column's currently called, but we're going to call it total missions. And there, that changes it now to say total missions, which looks a bit nicer than count C. Okay, so let's take a look at doing a query of a query. And what I mean is we have data that's been aggregated already like this, and I want to run it through the query language again and re-aggregate it even further. And so what I'd like to do with this one is to find out what the total number of missions were, and then what the average number of missions were per shuttle after the year 2000. So we'll do a query, and this is our data set here, and we'd like to say select the sum of J, and then AVG, which is the average of J as well. And then my two measures I'd like to return, the two aggregations, and I have one header row, and let's close the parentheses and hit enter. And so it tells me the total missions were 39, and the average number of missions per shuttle was approximately 10. Now, what you can do, and this is where it gets really powerful, is I can actually, rather than do this in 2 steps, I can just embed this query here. So if I copy all of that except for the equals there, so Control C, and I just drop that into here, then we'll be able to just do this in 1 step. Now, it won't work when I immediately just do this right now, as you'll see. So I'll hit enter, and it's not going to work. It's not going to be able to find column J anymore, because this now, we're not using this one here. What we'll do is actually just generating a data set on the fly with this first query. So this is our subquery, this is our outer query, and rather than using any of the column headings anymore, I need to use col1, col2, col3, as you'll see. So if you remember J2, so when we create this little table here, J in this instance was the second column of this little mini table that we created. So when I create it on the fly inside of my formula, I need to reference col2 now. So let's do col2 in here, and I need to do a col2 in here as well. And then I hit enter, and then it gets me back now my missions, my sum of my missions, and that now is the nested query. So let me just put in a fresh line there to give us a bit of space. And one last thing I'd like to do just to neaten this up is to just label those, put the proper column labels on. So I'm just going to copy this in here for brevity. But I've said label the sum of column 2 as the total number of missions and the average of column 2 as the average missions per shuttle after the year 2000. Hit enter, and there you go. It gives me now those metrics that I was after, but using a query of a query, so a nested query. That's it with queries, folks, for this one. Now I could keep going for another hour with the query function. It's such a powerful function. That's really all of the main pieces of syntax for it, the main use cases, but you can just get more and more complex, obviously, with the queries that you write, with the language that you use. But that's enough, certainly, to get you deep into the query function and use it in your analysis to do what you want. So as I said, it's probably the most powerful function in Google Sheets, probably the most useful. So if there's one function to learn from this course, then the query function is the one to learn. So thanks for watching, folks.